Hi, y'all, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Usually, it's pretty safe to say that the drama in a true crime case is around the crime. I mean, maybe around the criminal, right? But maybe even you would have disputes between, say, the family of the victim and the family of the defendant. But the drama in the James Craig murder case just seems to keep growing and growing. James Craig, initially from the get go, he's accused of murdering his own wife by poisoning her workout shakes. And then you add on top of that murder for hire charges. And now the drama has even gone so far as to spread to James Craig's own lawyers. And I'm not just talking about run of the mill court case drama. I mean, drama like pull a gun and burn your own house down kind of drama. What in the world is going on in the James Craig case in Colorado? So let's dive in and find out more about this case. If you would, please hit the like button. That'll help this get out to more people. They can join us as well. And also, if you would subscribe, would love to have you back for more videos. Shout out to our first 5 in the chat tonight: DJ, Melody Perkins, Daniela Queen, and Camilla Juliana. So let's talk about the sort of origins of the James Craig case. We did a video on this, but it's been a long time, and I'm sure people don't fully remember it. So it was extremely disturbing, and I'm talking about from the get-go. It started as a murder case. Usually that would be plenty of drama enough. Prosecutors say that James Craig was pretending to everybody, to his wife, to his friends, to his church, that he was a loving father, great husband. And it's maybe kind of a tired saying, but to outsiders, Angela and James Craig appeared to really have it all. You know, they've been married for 23 years and they had 6 children. Angela was a leader at their local Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, even the choir director. James was the Summerbrook Dental Group in Aurora, Colorado. And so this, I'll show you this picture because it's amazing. This is James Craig posted on Facebook for Summerbrook Dental Group. Dr. Craig last month on his way out the door at the end of the day to celebrate his and Angie's 20th wedding anniversary. So it looked happy and great. It looked like things were in good shape. But then suddenly Angela seemed to have some bizarre health problems. She was hospitalized several times with a mysterious illness. And after numerous tests, doctors came up empty-handed. They could not figure out what the deal was. They did not know what was wrong. And finally, on her 3rd hospitalization, Angela died on March 18th, 2023. And even before she died, friends of the family were suspicious. They were wondering if James had poisoned Angela, and they reached out to law enforcement, and James was arrested the day after Angela died. Prosecutors say James had bought several different kinds of poison and dumped them into the protein shakes he was pretending to really lovingly make for his wife. He was willing to go to great lengths to get this poison, prosecutors say. They say that when one company wanted him to explain why exactly he needed this dangerous substance, he pretended that he needed it for an experiment in his dental practice and that he was going to write a paper about this study. But what they say he really wanted was something that would kill Angela. So prosecutors dug into his devices after he was arrested, and they found some incriminating searches like how many grams of pure arsenic will kill a human, and is arsenic detectable in autopsy. They saw he had gone to a YouTube video called Top 5 Undetectable Poisons That Show No Sign of Foul Play. So what they think happened is that James Craig intentionally poisoned the shakes he was giving to Angela in the mornings when she did her workout. According to CNN affiliate KUSA, an autopsy report confirmed that. Let me add this back to the stage and show you that file. This is what was said on KUSA. The Arapahoe County Coroner's Office found that Angela Craig ingested doses of cyanide and tetrahydrozoline, listing arsenic poisoning as a, quote, significant condition related to her death. And it cited the autopsy report. So that is their conclusion about why, how she died, what exactly the mechanism was. But why on earth would this happen? Like, why? And I will say this, the motive isn't really clear. There have been insinuations that James Craig's dental practice was not doing well financially, or at least that he personally was not. And there have also there have been hints that he may have met another person, a new love interest, but she says they'd only known each other for 3 weeks. That doesn't really seem to fit. They were both dentists and they met at a dental conference, and prosecutors insist that's what he wanted, was he was going to start a new life with this woman. So prosecutors also have said that this may not be the only time that he drugged Angela. I don't know if they're going to try to offer that into evidence or not, but they've sort of suggested that. So we're going to have to save all that for another video. There is an extremely specific affidavit that was done in this particular case. And over that, we'll have to do that. That'll be its own video. I don't want to laying out for you all of the crazy in this case, because there has been a lot. So as I said, James Craig arrested the very day after Angela died on March 19, 2023, and he was sent to jail. So normally you expect things to really calm down, right? When someone's in jail, that's pretty much the end of the criminal activity. And so you can then focus on the criminal activity that's going to be tried and the decision about whether the person goes to prison. But this was just the beginning of where all this was going. So the first attorney, his first attorney, was about to take him into trial. It was a year and 6 months later, something like that. And trial was scheduled for November 21st, 2024. James Craig was being represented by a very well-respected local attorney, Harvey Steinberg. But suddenly, on the day of trial, Harvey Steinberg just abruptly files a motion to withdraw as James Craig's attorney. And he cited 2 rules of professional conduct. We'll talk about those in just a minute. But first, I want to say, I cannot tell you how unusual it would be for to approve a request to withdraw on the day of trial, or even kind of remotely in that vicinity. Because you just think about what this is going to do. You've got a jury ready to be impaneled. All these people have shown up at the courthouse. You've got prosecutors, you've got the judge, you've got the judge's staff. Everybody is ready to go. Witnesses are waiting in the wings. Everybody has worked to get to this moment. And now you're going to let the attorney out, because that just means you have to cancel the trial. You have to put it off to some future date. Courts do not want to do that. Judges do not want to do that. So it's very unusual that they would allow somebody to just withdraw. Now let's take a look at what first I want to show you a X. Let me add this to the stage and take you to the next one. So this is from the 18th Judicial District Attorney's Office, and it was announcing trial is delayed in James Craig's case. This morning, defense counsel moved to withdraw from the case, citing a professional conflict. After a hearing, the judge allowed defense counsel to withdraw, citing the rule of professional conduct 1.16b2 and 1.16b4. So right off the bat, they're telling you why the attorney cited. That's not just an accident. They're trying to send a message. They're saying, here are the grounds. Let's take a look at what those are. Here is Rule 1.16. A lawyer may withdraw from representing a client if. Notice the may. That means the judge has to agree to that. And here the judge did after a closed hearing. And here are 2 and 4. The client in a course of action involving the lawyer's services that the lawyer reasonably believes is criminal or fraudulent. And number 4, the client insists upon taking action that the lawyer considers repugnant or with which the lawyer has a fundamental disagreement. Now, we don't know, and we will never be told what the problem was between the attorney and James Craig. He cited these two things. This implies that he believes James Craig was persisting in a course of action that involved the attorney that the lawyer reasonably believed was criminal or fraudulent. But we don't have any idea what that is. We just know he cited this. And the client insists upon taking action that the lawyer considers repugnant. So in other words, that the lawyer considered whatever James Craig was insisting on doing to be repugnant or had a fundamental disagreement with it. We don't know details, but that's the message that the ex post was telling us, that that's exactly what the reason was and why he withdrew. So that's super unusual that it was approved. And we can't know what this is about, but conceivably, the attorney found out about what was about to go down, because the very next day, let me pull this out for just a minute. So the very next day, on November 22nd, 2024, prosecutors filed brand new charges and against James Craig, and said that Craig was doing his best to interfere with the prosecution from his jail cell, which is really hard to do. Here is, and we'll add this back again, and let me show you what the new charges were. So we initially started with count 1. You see it there, murder in the first degree. But they added these 5: solicitation to commit tampering with physical evidence. And there were 2 counts of that, 2 and 3. And then there was solicitation to commit perjury in the first degree. And there were 2 counts of that, also count 4 and count 6, you can see there. And then there was also solicitation to commit murder in the first degree, count. So in other words, what this is telling us is that they believe from his jail cell, maybe some beforehand, we don't know details, that he was tampering with physical evidence, or more specifically, trying to get someone to do that, maybe because he was in jail and couldn't, and trying to get someone to commit perjury. He was soliciting, asking people to do that, and soliciting somebody to commit more murder. He's already charged with murder of Angela Craig, but there was solicitation to commit murder in the first degree. This is amazing. This is while he's in jail, he's doing this. We know so little about this. There has not been a detailed affidavit filed on these. We have some hints, and some reporters were at some of the hearings that have happened, but we really know very, very little about what exactly is going on here. But we do have some hints. I'm going to give you some of what those hints are about, because the AP is reported about some of these new charges. So let's add that back to the stage and take a look at what the AP has reported. That prosecutors filed 2 new charges against James Craig last week: solicitation to commit murder, as well as solicitation to commit perjury. It was really 5. The charging document does not say who Craig allegedly wanted to have killed, but a spokesperson for Aurora Police, Joe Moylan, confirmed late Wednesday that the alleged intended victim was an Aurora police detective. And in other reports, supposedly it was the lead detective in the case against James Craig. Prosecutors are actually saying that while in prison, he was attempting to hire someone to kill the lead detective in his case. Wow, just that, I mean, that is some crazy allegation there. They also said that the allegations involved that he was previously charged with smuggling a letter out of jail with an inmate bonded out by an adult daughter. So in other words, I guess the inmate's getting out, his daughter's picking him up, and he's getting a letter out with this inmate. It asked her to make a fake video of Angela Craig asking Craig to get poisons for her, according to prosecutors, because who wouldn't want poisons, right? Of course, everyone is looking for those on a regular basis. He is also accused of asking another inmate to plant forged journal entries at the Craig home, suggesting that Angela Craig unalived herself. The inmate declined, according to court documents. Very wise inmate. Craig's original defense team pointed out that the inmate only contacted authorities after an initial hearing to review the evidence in the case, which was widely covered by the media. So in other words, the defense is suggesting maybe this guy had some self-interest, both maybe being famous, being, well known, at least momentarily, his moment in the sun, and also maybe he thought this is particularly high stakes for the state, and maybe I can get something if I do this. Maybe I can buy something from this. And then prosecutors also allege Craig tried a more elaborate and convoluted approach to put the blame on his wife. In court documents, they said he asked another former fellow inmate to find attractive women who would agree to testify at his trial that they had affairs with him. And after Angela Craig found out, they had refused to help her frame him. So I find it really funny, first of all, that they had to be attractive women, because he did not want a bunch of unattractive women claiming to have had an affair with him. That's what I presume. So only if they found attractive women was this going to work. And who would believe he would be with someone who wasn't attractive anyway? So if they found that, they were going to say that Angela Craig was trying to frame him. How exactly that helps him if he poisoned her, I don't know. Was it like slow self-defense or something? Like, how would that help? But anyway, there must be some story behind this. And he was, according to the prosecutors, trying to find people who would support this story. And he's trying to do all this from jail. So it was inconvenient, I'm sure, for him to do all that. All right. So even more strikingly, though, remember that charge that he tried to get an inmate to arrange to have the lead detective killed, murdered. Now, 9 News is reporting that the prosecutors accuse him of soliciting not just one murder, but 4. This is in addition, separate from the murder charged with of his wife, Angela. So that's absolutely breathtaking if it ends up being true and is proven at trial, because that would mean if it had worked, if he had been caught, that would have been 5 murders, 4 of them just to cover up the one. So we don't have names. We'll break down key witnesses in another video. We can learn a lot from that and maybe make some guesses and so forth, but we don't know the actual names or whether or not they're correct. 9 News is that it's actually 4 people total, including the detective. So with all of this drama going on, let me say thank you to Dolly. I appreciate that, Dolly. And thank you to Marlon and to Mama Paints. They are our longtime mods, and we are unbelievably grateful to have them on the channel. So thank you to both of them. And thank you, Dolly. I appreciate you're sending a shout out to them as well. All right. So all this drama is going on. And meanwhile, of course, as soon as the one attorney withdrew, James Craig has no attorney. So the court appointed 2 new ones, and work began again. And the 2 new attorneys were Robert Working and Lisa Fine Moses. So for several months, things rocked along. They represented James Craig moving toward trial, which is supposed to start tomorrow. But just this week, another of James Craig's attorneys bit the dust. Robert Working resigned. And the reason is utterly shocking. He is occupied with his own legal matters. And according to a statement from one of his attorneys, he may actually be hospitalized. So what in the world? He was arrested for 4th-degree arson for setting his own home on fire. And under Colorado law, that is 4th-degree arson is the least serious degree of arson. But it does mean that the person is accused of knowingly or recklessly starting a fire that endangers another person or damages a building. So let me show you that. We'll add that to the stage. Okay, so here it is. This is, and I'll make it a little bit bigger. We can't go too big and still fit it in, but a person who knowingly or recklessly starts or maintains a fire or causes an explosion on his own property or that of another. I thought, what choices are there other than his own property or that of another? It seems like that's kind of extraneous. I tried to think of the situation in which it was not on property and you cause a fire explosion, maybe on water or in airspace or something. But anyway, and by so doing, places another in danger of death or serious bodily injury, or places any building or occupied structure of another in danger of damage. So Law and Crime is reporting that they talked to a spokesperson from the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office and South Metro Fire Rescue. And here's what they're saying. When deputies arrived at the house fire on Cayley, they found Working sitting on the porch of his house, which apparently was on fire. And officials told Law and Crime that just before midnight, James Craig's attorney, not James Craig, set his house on fire and then just sat on the porch waiting for firefighters to arrive. So Law and Crime reported he even used an accelerant, which would speed the burn, and that he, quote, burned his own house down. I don't know exactly how much damage was done. Maybe not much. Maybe they got there really quick. I sure hope so. It apparently was also not Working's first brush with the law in just the past few weeks, because on June 14th, he got a misdemeanor weapons charge. We don't know what that involved because that record, along with the new one, has been sealed. More on that in just a minute. Here's what misdemeanor weapons would be: knowingly and unlawfully aims a firearm at another person, recklessly or with criminal negligence discharges a firearm or shoots a bow and arrow, knowingly sets a loaded gun, trap, device designed to cause an explosion upon being tripped or approached, or has in his or her possession a firearm while under influence. And there could be a class 2 misdemeanor if you are using throwing stars or nunchucks. I'm just assuming that is the case here, but I guess I for sure. Thank you, Mildred. Mildred is pointing out a good issue about arson and the definition of arson. So now, interestingly, Working, the attorney's wife, is the victim of the arson case, which makes sense. It would be her house too, I presume. And that is another connection to the James Craig case, because Working's wife, attorney Working's wife, is the second attorney representing James Craig. Robert Working is married to Lisa Fine Moses. They're both attorneys. They were handling James Craig's case together. But now that he's facing these arson charges, Robert Working withdrew from the case yesterday, which leaves Lisa Fine Moses to handle the case on her own when the trial starts tomorrow. Now, one local reporter is saying that another attorney is going to step in and help last minute, but she'll be the one who knows the case and is responsible for it. Now, Denver 7 reports that when he showed up for his hearing, Working appeared virtually, that it looked like he was in a hospital bed. Working's attorney put out a statement saying, being a defense lawyer necessarily means bearing the burden of living at all times in other people's trauma. Sometimes this means becoming a news story when the weight of trauma is too much for us to continue to carry. Mr. Working is getting the mental health treatment so many of us delay receiving. Okay, so I just want to, first of all, I want to put her picture up. Let me add this to the stage. This is Lisa Fine Moses. And I just want to say hats off to her. Think about what is happening here. She is essentially by herself. Even if someone steps in, they cannot know the case like she does. This is a national profile case, a murder trial. And according to Working's lawyer, he had some kind of mental issue requiring treatment. That's what the attorney said. He was charged 3 weeks ago with misdemeanor weapons charge of some type. We don't know details. He allegedly set fire to their house. If Law and Crime is right, he may have destroyed it. We don't know the extent of the damage, but it doesn't matter how little it is. That's huge. And if it damaged it, that's even worse. And then he was hospitalized. He faces legal charges and he resigned from the case. That means she just lost half the legal team that was going to handle this case. And she's supposed to move forward with the trial. I mean, I'm just, dang, who is this woman? She really truly has to be remarkable, because I don't, how you exactly hold it all together to be able to do that. This is incredible pressure incredible. So I'm amazed. Now we don't know a lot about the charges against Working, and the reason is, according to a motion as cited by the Post, the release at this time of the affidavit could result in disclosure of information that could result in destruction, disposal, or secreting evidence and tampering with identified and unidentified witnesses, jeopardize the ongoing investigation. Further release of the information could result in harassment of a witness and jeopardize a jury trial. So I've thought about what that means. So to go back over that, they're saying if we let you know the details about attorney Working, then that could result in destruction or hiding evidence. That could result in tampering with witnesses. Like how? Like how on earth is that connected? I truly don't get that. If you have any clue, please put that in the chat because I do not get that. I am completely confused about how that could be the case. It seems like they would naturally be extremely different. Thank you, Melody. I appreciate your super chat and your nice comment and your thanks to the mods as well. So there's a huge question now of whether James Craig can get adequate representation fast enough. I don't know how Lisa Moses could handle this. Wow, I think that's a lot. But it sounds as if local media is reporting the case is going to go forward. I am sure James Craig, who has been in jail since 2023, March of 2023, is ready for his trial. He's ready to get things moving and to just figure out what's going to happen with the rest of his life. So I can certainly see why he would need that. But other than, I don't know why this has to be a secret. I don't get that. But I do understand that they apparently want to move forward. That would mean they would start tomorrow. There's going to be another attorney helping her, but that other attorney could not conceivably know the case as well as her husband if he was going to help try the case all along, if he's been preparing. Now, I have a request for you. Jury selection is supposed to begin tomorrow. And it's not going to be televised. There's a little bit of an exception to that. Openings, closings, the verdict is going to be televised. People can see that. But other than that, you have to be a member of the media in order to have access to the court's video feed. So I did kind of learn the lesson, although it's ever so tempting for me, that going to a trial is super expensive. And unless it's a nationally covered trial with a lot of attention, I can't create enough interest just on this channel to kind of justify that. So I learned that with Natalie Cochran and Crystal Rogers, and I really did enjoy covering both, but I know that it's difficult for a channel this size to create that big interest. So I have two requests for your help. The first one is, could you please send this video to your friends? Because this case is very interesting, but people have to know about it. And it's really not getting much publicity in the media. I couldn't even find articles about it on Court TV, which is just bizarre to me. I realize it's not being, they focus on Court TV, right? Being in the courtroom, but still I was surprised they didn't have articles about it. And the second thing is, I would really like to get media credentials, but what the court is telling me is, in order to do that, I have to provide written proof that an accredited news outlet paying me some amount to cover the trial. And so do you know an outlet in the Denver area that would be looking for someone to give interviews about what goes on at the trial? And if you, and maybe, you know, we could work out an arrangement where I could get, be allowed to cover it, something like that. So if you know of that, please contact me at my Gmail, harvardlawyerlee@gmail.com. And that would, I would really appreciate that. And we'll take a few questions. I don't know if we all know enough about the case to ask too many questions, but please ask me any questions. If you would put question marks at the beginning, that would be good. I would like to trial more. I think what we'll have to do is see what kind of interest it generates. But I would really like to do that. There is a lot of just nutty stuff in that affidavit that is that affidavit that was filed. It's over 50 pages, and that details why the prosecution believes James Craig murdered his wife. What are the reasons? All right, so looking for question marks, but be sure, as I said, to put those question marks at the beginning. Yes, the Rosie McCrane. This is the same dentist that poisoned his wife's protein shakes 2 years ago because and ordered the cyanide to his dental practice. Correct. But this is now about to go to trial. The first trial put off when the attorney resigned. Now it's rescheduled. First trial, well, the trial, and now it's been rescheduled. So that would be connected. Mama Pinks asked me, have I ever seen another defense attorney leave a case for mental health issues like this? No, I mean, obviously his attorney says that had occurred. I don't doubt it at all, but I have never seen that actually happen. Certainly there is a lot of pressure on attorneys, especially when they get really near to the actual trial. That pressure is huge, and the time commitment is just ridiculous. It's without boundaries, no borders at all, just working all the time. And so I know that the pressure's high. I fully accept and understand that's true, but I haven't ever seen anyone actually leave the case for that reason before. Occasionally I've seen people maybe get ill, like a heart attack or something, and then trial has to be put off. Sometimes the judge will say, you've got one attorney left, that attorney needs to step in and deal with the case. That does happen sometimes. Can James Craig claim insufficient counsel later? Asked Freddie Scat. Yes, that will always be one of the primary appellate issues, is that the counsel was ineffective during the trial. I think that in this case, if he elects to go forward, that he's pushing for that. That's what I gather, because he's been in jail for so long. So it is possible, though. That's definitely something that happens. I don't think if he moves forward with just one attorney and there's no request for a delay, and I gather there hasn't been one, then I don't think there'll be any grounds for appeal on that issue. Oh, Christina Marie, y'all reminded me about Michelle Troconis. I don't have anywhere to write down right now, but thank you for reminding me. And assuming I can remember it all the way to the end of this broadcast, then I will look at that. But thank you for reminding me, because I really do want to look at that. Holly wants to know if you have to have credentials to go watch this in person. I doubt it, Holly. I mean, typically the public can go into a trial as long as there's still room. So I don't expect that you would need that, or that any need that. Just there needs to be room. Catherine asks, will the new charges have a separate trial, and can the new charges be used in this trial? They apparently intend to try them all in one case. And I say that because they added them as counts 2 through 6 on the exact same complaint against James Craig. So I feel like they're going to try them all at once, and that it's all one case. And it relates to attempts to get rid of evidence or witnesses who would have hurt him in this case. So the prosecution will argue that that in itself is important, that he himself believes this evidence is so incriminating, he's trying to get rid of it, or trying to create evidence. So I believe it will all be tried in one big batch. He wants to know, how did they figure it out? Well, some people came to them and said, we'll cover this in detail, but some friends concluded that and went to law enforcement. It kind of started from there, but there were a number of people who were suspicious around this time. So we can detail all that in our next video. Assuming people are interested. And I know you're interested in Michelle Troconis. I'm going to keep saying that, so remember it all the way to the end. Let's see. Allie asked him, was there ever any resolution or grand reveal about Pillowgate? No, I think it remains a complete mystery, Allie. Who knows? Maybe you could on the area, have line sitters. Maybe someone, I could find somebody in the area who could be my inside ears. Well, that's a really good idea, Rosie. I mean, that might be a possibility. I would love to be there myself. I feel like I can offer some legal take on some of the things that happened that someone else couldn't. But having someone there to at least tell me what happens would be huge. That's really important. It's very difficult to get information about the case. It just isn't being reported. So, which may be my clue that I should not be covering this too much. But anyway, I find it absolutely fascinating. I think it deserves a lot more attention than it's getting. I think I have one more thank you to Jackie P. Thank you for gifting 5 Lawyerly memberships. Jackie P regularly does that, and we notice and really appreciate it. All right. Well, I will see you all in the next video, which will be, we'll see about tomorrow, but for sure, Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. See you then. Okay.